Good morning. Lovely to see you and welcome to May meeting. I hope you all had a lovely bank holiday weekend. Weather was okay. Apologies for absence. I have Theo, Mike, Evelyn and Cara. Are there any other apologies for absence?
Yes. John.
Oh, and John. Thank you. I'll just pause slightly. Declarations of interest. I don't have any. Robin?
Yeah, I don't.
Around the room?
No.
No? No? Marcus? Declarations of interest?
Oh, no. No. Thank you.
Dominic? Brilliant, thank you. Chairperson's announcement. I do have one, and it's sad, but not sad. So some of you will remember Jackie Edwards, and she passed away since the last meeting. Jackie's husband was a very long-standing member here, John, and to be honest, Jackie was the power behind the train, wasn't he, Stephen? He was amazing, and so you sort of got two for the price of one. But Jackie passed away just on her birthday, I think.
On her 97th birthday.
Yeah, amazing lady. So no, I think it's quite nice that we just sort of announced it here because many of us remember her.
And her memorial service is on Friday. What time is it, Stephen?
2:30 at Exford.
Okay, thank you. So 2:30 at Exford. Are you going?
Okay.
Oh, excellent. Minutes from the last meeting. I have to say I wasn't here, so sorry about that. But I will go through as always. Can I first have somebody to propose them and second them, please? Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Mike. All those in favour? Thank you. Right, page 1, page 2, page 3. Thank you. Business of urgency. I haven't been notified of any, so I can't give you any. Public speaking. There's literally nobody here. So on to item 7, capital programmes, and we've got quite a lot of sort of audity stroke financing things today. So over to you then.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, members. So this paper seeks your approval for the authority's capital programme for 2026-27, and it sets out how we propose to invest the £1.4 million of DEFRA capital funding in a way that's compliant, deliverable and aligned with our new corporate plan. So I'm just going to cover 4 things very briefly. The context we're operating in, the programme-based approach we're proposing for this year, where the £1.4 million is being allocated to.
The Chief Executive is going to give us 20 quid to our
Having such a horrible ring table.
And then finally, what members are being asked to do today. So firstly, for the context, thank you. Members will recall that the 25-26 year was a step change for capital for Exmoor. We successfully managed the £1.4 million allocation. We deliberately over-programmed to manage our delivery risk and end the year with the full utilisation of that DEFRA capital, and that's obviously subject to final accounts being completed over the next month. For 26-27, DEFRA has again confirmed £1.4 million of CDL capital against the indicative and then has provided also indicative allocations for 2027-28 and 2028-29. And that gives us a real opportunity, but also quite a hefty responsibility to enable us to think beyond 1 year and to build a programme that supports a long-term resilience, to support our statutory delivery and to deliver value for money to our government and our residents. Alongside this, members will note that DEFRA has confirmed additional revenue support for 26-27, which enables us and allows us to take a more coherent 3-year view using the revenue and capital combined, but appropriately and compliantly as well. So a key feature of this report is our programme level approach. And rather than asking members to approve a long list of individual capital projects, many of which are still dependent on consents, procurement or detailed design processes going through. We are proposing approval at programme level. And this approach gives us flexibility to prioritise schemes that are generally capital ready. It reduces the risk of trying to force marginal activity into capital, and also reflects the practical realities of delivery in the prospective landscape. I can give you assurance that individual projects will still be properly appraised, governed and reported, but within the programme envelopes you're being asked to approve today. So where is the money going? The proposed programme totals 1.4 million and is structured under 5 interrelated themes. So the first of those is asset renewal and infrastructure. So we've earmarked £600,000 on that in 26-27. And this is our single largest programme and focuses on renewal of our estate, decarbonisation projects such as solar and battery installs, and the replacement of plant and equipment where it creates long-term assets. And this is very much about risk reduction, it's about our investor save, and it's about enhancing resilience. Our second theme is natural environment and habitat, £400,000. And this supports land acquisition, woodland and habitat creation, and long-term natural capital assets. And this contributes directly to nature recovery in our 30 by 30 objectives. And although some schemes will be delivered with partners, the assets remain tied through agreements to ENPA's statutory purposes. Our third theme is heritage and landscape, that's £200,000. And this programme focuses on heritage at risk, conservation area, historic landscape enhancement, and also assets with enduring cultural and landscape value. Our fourth, around operational efficiency and digital, £100,000. This includes qualified digital systems, cyber security infrastructure, and digital archives that provide multi-year organisational benefit and are treated as capital in line with SIPA guidance. And then the final theme is around access and visitor experience, also £100,000. And this covers bridges, paths, visitor facilities and safety improvements. There's a clear distinction between capital enhancements and routine maintenance, which remain revenue funded. So that's the 5 themes. So in terms of governance, risk and member role, the programme is designed to fully comply with our DEFRA capital criteria, along with SIPA guidance as well. It's been designed to minimise the risk of ineligible spend and also to ensure delivery within the financial year that we've got in front of us, currently sat in. So capital monitoring is now a standing item of both leadership team and delivery team meetings, agendas. And members will receive regular update reports on progress, risk and expenditure through the year as we do our budget monitoring and deliver that to you. So what are members being asked today? I'm asking for approval of the proposed capital programme for 26-27, as set out in section 4 of the report. To agree with our approach that delivery is managed at programme level rather than individual project level, approval level. And also to note the anticipated capital outturn for 25-26. That will be presented along with the outturn papers in our July authority meeting. So taken together, I consider that this provides a robust, flexible and strategic framework for investing DEFRA capital in support of our corporate plan, but also in terms of our National Park Management Plan as well. And Chair, that includes my introduction, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Members, over to you. Andrew.
Thank you, Ben. I think the proposed investments are very balanced portfolio and looks ideal. And yet you can't argue with investors say risk reduction, mass resilience. Pink seems makes a lot of sense to refurbish that. Restoration of heritage assets, IT systems, all seem very good approach, and I like the idea of setting it out that way, and then obviously we'll get more detailed projects as they come forward. A couple of questions. The lessons learned referred to in paragraph 1.3 from the previous year of capital. Could you just talk through what those lessons learned are? And secondly, maybe where you talked about the authority tends to use a swap approach for earned income. I know that's not for this 1.4, it's for the 1.7 RDEL, isn't it? just talk that through where you're saying revenue swap approach with earned income to enable smoothing spending. Okay? That's good. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you. So in terms of lessons learned, I did Sarah and I did a capital informal members briefing recently. We went into quite a lot of detail about those lessons learned. It's mainly around the capacity of staff teams, the timing, the deliverability of schemes, and the difficulty of compressing funding into a year. So we need to look at this as a long-term approach, because several of our projects are multi-year, multi-million-pound projects in total. And it's very difficult to compress that into a year and try and obtain all consents, all planning, back surveys, and deliver the procurement and manage the project through that process. So the team has learned a lot of lessons and kind of ways of working through this last year. Some of which we don't want to repeat, some of which are actually set a process and procedure for us to move forward on. So that's really a very brief summary of lessons learned. In terms of the revenue swap, the Ardell allocation is a 1-year allocation. It's £1.7 million. It's kind of over 50% of our National Park Grant revenue allocation, full stop. So to be able to spend that in a year is nigh on impossible. So what we're looking at is our earned income that we would normally earn during that year being taken to reserves and predicated on smoothing the impact of that funding, that allocation across multiple years. So it enables us to actually take on staff for specific purposes rather than just having an 8 to 10 month window of opportunity.
Just really putting stuff into reserves and using the income as the amount you're going to put away.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. You Ben?
The programme approach seems very sensible, and it's a framework. For example, we're taking 200,000 towards heritage and culture, and there was a strain on that particular part of the budget. Is there flexibility a bit about moving between the different themes? You mentioned 5 themes to start with. So I think 600,000 on assets. And if something came up in terms of another theme, would you be able to shift between the two?
I think in terms of that, if we were going to shift significantly, we'd need to come back to yourselves to seek approval for that. We have got some capital receipts reserves and other capital pots as well. So we can kind of utilise and lever in additional funding if needed. But ultimately, to move between those parts, we would need a member decision.
And there wouldn't be any flexibility, discretion, otherwise, I mean, if it's £5,000 or something like that, would you need to come back every time?
I think we try and manage that within the overall umbrella of the pot.
Yes, I would hope you've got that.
But but anything significant would need a kind of revisit with members and member approval. So potentially in one of our budget monitoring quarterly meetings.
Yeah, it's on the basis there might be something unanticipated that comes up. So you've got a framework that you're working within, but there may be occasions where you need to review that.
Indeed, and that's one of the reasons why we've gone down this kind of programme approach, this themed approach, rather than just individual projects, because it gives us some more latitude around projects within that theme to be able to.
It's less rigid than individual projects, of course, but there is some flexibility otherwise. No, that's good. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Just a quick one. Yes, again, I think the programme approach is really great. Ben, I'm wanting to just double check this. So obviously for the financial year just gone, we had the capital money had to be spent in that financial year, yeah, and there was no room for things going into this financial year. Is that right? So what I'm just trying to get at is, going forward, we have a pot of money, obviously, for this financial year, for capital projects, and we have an indicative pot for future years. So if we're doing stuff in this financial year, do we absolutely have to have the whole thing done, dusted within this financial year, or is there going to be more flexibility for things to roll on if things inevitably get held up for lots of reasons?
Thank you. In terms of spending the CDL deferred allocation, that is very clearly, this has to be spent by 31st of March. In terms of our projects, they do not need to be spent by 31st of March. We need to programme those in and ensure we've got funding in subsequent years. We have spent the full allocation in 25-26 and potentially a little bit more. So we will have to draw internal resources for that. But it is our intention to fully use that in 26-27 also.
Okay, so even though they've got there indicatively saying we're going to get capital funds for the next subsequent financial years, 27, 28, 29, we still have to. It's not. They don't consider it as a rolling capital programme 3 years. Something helpful like that.
Unfortunately, that would have been delightful, really, to be able to manage it across the medium term. But unfortunately, that's not the world we're living in with the funding side of things. And they are indicative sums, so they could potentially change if there is a significant multinational park capital scheme that comes forward. It may mean that our allocation gets reduced. But we're planning on having allocation to be able to spend in 27, 28, and 28 and 29 as well. So some of our multi-year projects will invariably need that over this going to be medium term.
Okay, that's great.
Mandy.
Thank you, and thank you for the paper. Just a few questions, if I may. First one is around spend to save, and in the first section, there asset renewal, which covers refurbishment of Pinkery. So my first question is, in that refurbishment, will you be looking to maximise future income or increase future income if you're spending? So I suppose it's spending to generate as opposed to spending to save. Secondly, the decarbonisation works, solar, PV batteries, heat systems. Heat systems tend to be better for the environment, some of them, but are also more costly in terms of electricity, so you tend to have to put your solar in to balance out, but that doesn't always save very much. And then we've got the replacement of plant and vehicles. So I suppose my question is, I'm not quite seeing how much there is spend to save wise, and is there a figure you're aiming for spend to save wise, and will that figure be monitored? That's the question.
Thank you, Mandy. In terms of spend to save, then we are looking at each of the projects with a modicum of this to happen. I mean, Pinkery is an example. Yes, we're looking at the buildings and what can be done there to not only increase revenue, potentially from feed and tariff, reduce running costs, but also have more availability of that site to increase throughout the year or number of the range of facilities available. So yes, we are looking at that at an individual project level. We've got a few schemes around roofing replacements and battery and enhancements there, such as Exford. So that would deliver savings in terms of ongoing utilities costs, also provide battery storage and the ability to charge our EV fleet potentially on site. And I take your point around heat systems. I mean, we're looking at driver and kind of the whole fulcrum of systems that need to go in there. Heat is invariably one, and yes, it's not going to save a significant amount, but it will support that site. So at the programme level, I suppose it's more difficult to see. Haven't kind of costed out what actually is going to, what spend to save will deliver at this stage. It's primarily looking at what resources are available to us and how we can deliver that in the timescale. But part of going forward with the projects it will be to kind of cost out those savings.
Thank you. I just think moving forward with these capital amounts we keep getting given, making the maximum savings from them at the end of the day will help your revenue. So for me, I'm really interested in all revenue spend, how much it's going to save, and that's monitored, and if it's put forward as a project that will save, that is monitored also and is delivered. So my next question is, I guess, is what's not on the list? It's really interesting because you picked, or the staff have picked these projects to come forward, and I'm really interested in, were there some that you would have loved to have had in there that aren't there? It doesn't have to be here, even a members' forum, but I'd really like to know why you decided these and perhaps not others. That'd be interesting to know.
Useful question. Thank you.
Okay, Laura.
Thank you. you. Yeah, following on nicely from what Mandy just said, I wondered if we'd explored things that might not be usually considered capital and at the forefront of people's mind, but things like campaign development for a fundraising Care More campaign, content creation, a hero film and some content that we can use to generate more support, engagement and revenue going forward, because that can be delivered quite swiftly in a way that doesn't put pressure on the self-team by working with freelancers and agencies to give them that project. It might be just a good, useful way to get that spend out the door with some really valuable assets that we can use to generate more income and support going forward. So just, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so we have kind of bridged those areas. We've got the benefit of having this additional RDEL allocation as well. So some of these items that you've just kind of discussed are kind of on the fringe of actually, is this capital, is this a revenue item? We've got sufficient capital to be able to allocate it pretty much fully to schemes that we're very confident that will be treated as capital. So the revenue, the RDEL allocation kind of frees up some funding to be able to do some of these areas with, and we're looking at primarily posts, but also projects within those posts. So it's something we are considering and kind of working through currently.
Thank you. And Bill?
Thank you, Beth. So the management fees will be rolled into each area as part of that capital cost. Is that the plan? So, just wondered if, so presumably the whole lot will then have to be depreciated. So it will show on account as being depreciated as a capital cost at different rates?
It depends on the asset that it creates. But
Right.
potentially, yes. Yeah.
But it will all be depreciated at different rates? Yeah.
It depends on the asset creation, really, in terms of what depreciation, technically, if depreciation will be applied. So if it's land purchase, we wouldn't normally apply depreciation to land purchase. But a new EV would be depreciated. And we've taken a look at kind of management costs. Last year we allocated £100,000 towards management costs. We did timesheets allocation for all our staff for all the projects. And it seemed better that we actually kind of rolled those costs into the project costs, so we've got a true feel of actually what that project is costing us to deliver.
Okay, just something on land acquisition. There's a line there. Are we looking for land, or are we waiting for people to come with a project that needs land to fulfil it? And attached to that, have we still got the money from our sale at East Stansted and I think somewhere else? Is that still held? And can that be used for revenue, or is it just restricted to capital?
So we are potentially looking for land, and whether that comes by kind of itself or as part of a project. We do still have the sale proceeds from our previous land sale, and that is held in the capital receipts reserve and can only be spent on capital. So it's been kind of predicated against partly on the driver project, but it forms part of our capital resources for the organisation.
I have no more hands. So just an observation from me. I mean, I welcome this. It feels tidier. It feels better planned. I know it was unexpected last year and everybody was sort of thrown into the deep end. We didn't have the capacity to deal with it, so it feels tidier. I'm really, really happy to see that at last we have some money to do something sensible with Pinkery, because always, all these years I've been here, it's felt like, oh, we've got a few grand, we can do this or we could do that. Suddenly I feel that we might actually be able to get it into decent looking and warm and sustainable building for the future. I don't mean sustainable on the environmental point, I mean for future generations, rather than scraping around trying to keep the place going. So that's how it's set. And we all know what that's like, because we're all an age where we've had to do that when we were younger. But yeah, so I'm pleased about that. Thank you. Right, I'm going to move to the vote. Can I have somebody to please vote? Mike, a seconder? Oh, Bill, thank you. All those in favour? I think that's unanimous. Was there anybody abstaining or against? No, it was unanimous. Thank you. So moving on now to item 8. We do love a bit of auditing. We're always doing a bit of auditing. I've even brought me Devon Audit Partnership pen with me to celebrate. Ben, with you, external audit this time.
Thank you, Chairman. Please can I introduce Craig Sullivan from Bishop Fleming. Craig introduce himself and explain their audit plan for our 25-26 financial year.
Thank you. Nice to have somebody different. I meant.
If you find yourself in the hole with Chairman, don't people?
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to know you like an audit, so that's a good way to start. So, brief introduction. So, my name is Craig Sullivan. I'm your new appointed external auditor. I'm a partner at Bishop Fleming, and it's good for me to come actually back to Exmoor, because I used to audit you about 15 years ago when I was at PwC. So it's nice coming back to the National Park. So in your papers today, you have our external audit plan. This is slightly later than we would normally have it, because obviously our appointment came in quite later in the cycle than what we'd expect to. But the audit plan here sets out how we plan to approach the external audit for the year ending March 2026. It sets out our respective roles in relation to the audit of your financial statements to make sure that they're true and fair, and also the additional role that we have around the value for money arrangements to make sure that you've looked at your arrangements under the three areas of financial sustainability, governance and improving economy efficiency and effectiveness, and we issue a separate report in relation to those arrangements that you have in place. We also list out our audit materiality, so this is required on every audit to make sure that then that's what the true and fair amounts are. So the amount we're working towards is 137,400, so anything above that we'd expect you to adjust in the accounts, as that would be a material error. We'll report to you anything that's below 5 or above 5% of that amount in our year-end report. So then you can see all the issues or errors that we've identified to decide whether you adjust for them or not. The next section then is around risks. So with any audit, we have to design our procedures to identify the potential of any material misstatement, and we also go through and evaluate where those areas of more risk may be. The first one is around management override of controls. So this is generally around where management may manipulate results or put through favourable results either through manual journals, so they can post through a favourable position, or key judgments or estimates. So we design procedures to do more testing in those areas to make sure that those judgments, estimates and manual journals are not materially misstated. The second area then is around the valuation of land and buildings. This is a significant risk because there's an element of judgment in relation to the valuation. So you would have an external valuer that would come in and value your land and buildings, and we have to then look at the assumptions that they put in place to make sure they're reasonable and they're not materially misstated. There is one change to the code this year around valuation, so it gives organisations the opportunity going forward to not have to go through a valuation every year or every 3 years, but to apply indexation in intervening years. And from discussions with the finance team, I think for this year you'll be doing a full valuation and then applying indexation going forward, which should lead to efficiencies and better improved processes as part of that area of the financial statements. And the final significant risk that we have there is the valuation of the pension fund. And again, the actuaries are looking at using assumptions and judgments. We have to go through and make sure that those judgments are reasonable, in line with benchmarks, and therefore that there's not a material misstatement. We also make sure then that the disclosures are accounted for correctly within the financial statements and disclosed appropriately. We have one other risk that's on page 22 of the pack, which is the change to the accounting system. So again, we just need to do additional procedures in relation to that to make sure that balances have been brought forward appropriately onto the new system and that there's not any issues in terms of that transfer of data, and that everything in terms of the financial accounting arrangements are operating as expected. The next section I was going to flag is section 3, which is the timetable. As I said at the beginning, this is probably slightly later than what we would ordinarily have, so for next year you'll probably see these dates coming forward. And what we're working towards is completing the audit key field work around the autumn this year, whereas probably next year we'll be looking to do that in the summer, and trying to get everything completed and signed off by November, December. The deadline this year has been brought forward a month, so you probably remember last year the deadline was the end of February. This year it's been brought forward to January. Next year it's being brought forward to November. So again, we want to try and make sure that we're planning things earlier, so we're getting things done as close to that November date this year as we can to put us in a good footing for next year. Section 4 is the audit fees, and they are set by PSAA. They're not my fees. They're the fees that PSAA sets, and we get a proportion of that. And the final section of our ethical issues is just making sure that as external auditors, we're not doing any other procedures, and that we are independent of you as well. And we had to confirm that through PSA through the late appointment. That's all the key areas I was going to pick up from the audit plan. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Members, have we got any questions of Mr Sullivan? Mandy?
We love auditing this corner of the room, don't we? We do. No, so thank you for the report. Just a couple of questions really. Really welcome the indexation around asset values. I think that's been a thorn in the side of many for many years, and that seems a sensible approach going forward, so I think that's great to hear. My question really is around risk, and I understand most of the risk here talks about overrides and process. I'm just interested, the way that this authority receives money is changing. We've got a lot more project work, capital programmes. I'm just wondering whether any of your work and others dealing with national parks will be around the risk, working with others and sharing projects holds. And I've never seen anything of that sort in an audit report, so I thought I'd ask the question.
That's fine. I think in terms of the way funding changes, it has two aspects. There'll be an accounting risk, making sure that what you're accounting for is correct, whether it's capital or revenue. So we obviously need to assure that anything you put through as capital applies with what's in the code. And therefore, even though you're getting capital funding, some of that spend might actually be revenue, so it shouldn't actually be capitalised. And the second point around working more in partnerships and working in arrangements and working with others, again, yeah, that forms part of the audit of the financial statements, but comes really well into the value for money arrangements, around how you're applying your resources under the 3 E's, but also some of that governance models as well. So we see it in other sectors as well, particularly in the NHS, where they work a lot more in partnership. We have to go through and look at that in terms of both the resources, how budgets are being pulled, how spending is being applied under all those, to make sure that the authority is actually using its resources appropriately and for the benefit of what it's there designed to do.
Thank you. I welcome that, because I think it is a change for many,
Yes.
and for me, sort of an external pair of eyes on that area would be welcome.
Any further questions, Mr Sullivan? Steve?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Craig. Lovely to meet you. Just one thing about the materiality percentage. You've got 2%, I think, of gross annual turnover. Is that something you set, or is that like an industry standard? I'm just backing what Mandy says about a lot of money coming through. There's an incredible amount of sort of cash and balances, receipts coming through. Is there a danger we could miss something if we set the material threshold too high?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Fine. So materiality is around about that 2% level across all firms. There's not a standard industry norm, but it is generally around that. And our firm, generally across all our audits, whether it's corporate or public sector, we apply that 2% of income or expenditure. In this situation, it's expenditure. What we do, though, to mitigate that with the risk is without going into too much detail, we have something what's called performance materiality. So what we do then is, in the first year of any audit, we reduce that materiality level by 35%. And therefore we're looking at anything that's below that. So that gives us a greater kind of bandwidth then to look to see whether there could be anything, either individually material or cumulative material, that could be an issue going forward. So in that first year we have a bigger reduction on that to pick up some of those first areas. To again, you know, cause a key thing for an auditor is to understand the organisation, understand the controls, processes, arrangements that you have in place. So doing that in the first year enables us then to set our understanding better without potentially missing anything.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
And then I've got Marcus.
Thank you. This might be a bit more simple question. I might be able to understand the answer as well. I'll have to rewatch the tape, I think. Yeah, I mean, mine was more simple. I mean, you mentioned things like value for money arrangements and things like that, and I wondered that in this, because obviously you're auditing after the event, I suppose, and in this ever-changing world where value for money changes, you know, what was value for money now wasn't value for money, I don't know, anyway, it's ever changing. So I wondered how you deal with that, and how do you then deal with that with us as an organisation? So is it the procedures we've got in place, or could it be genuine errors? And then you talked about errors, and it was very nice how you put that maybe management sometimes puts things in other, I suppose, I don't want to use the word nominal, but in other bits so things look better. But I mean, in your experience, have you ever really witnessed that in this sort of organisation? Actually, then, if there was, and how many times do you actually get an error that actually fundamentally judges things, and by the time it gets to you, no one's picked up? Is more that, because is that more of a judgment?
Okay. So the first one around value for money. The definition of value for money isn't particularly helpful in terms of the procedures of our work. So we're not actually checking that you make decisions based on value for money. We're looking at the arrangements and processes that you have in place to enable you to make effective decisions. So we're looking at the governance arrangements, we're looking at the internal controls and processes you have, and we're looking at how you make decisions rather than are we going to do a cost-benefit analysis, is that the right decision you make? So those arrangements generally are there throughout the financial year. If things subsequently change after the year, we will look at that, but obviously the opinion we're giving is in relation to the arrangements you have in place during the period, or the year ending March 2026. In relation to have we identified areas whereby there are material misstatements before? Yes, we have. Are they caused by manipulation? Sometimes. Are they caused by error? Most of the time. So a typical example in this sector is on the valuation of land and buildings, and that's where the valuer bases their value typically on a desktop valuation. They're going to inspect some items during a particular year, but if you've been given the wrong information around floor area for a building, or it's not been updated with any kind of improvements or anything, they could potentially be valuing something incorrectly that we have identified in previous audits that then do lead to material misstatements in relation to that. Other things are, I made the example around capital and revenue in nature. So again, there's a judgment there, because you can capitalise enhancements and improvements. You can't capitalise repairs and maintenance. So again, there's a judgment around what's an enhancement compared to a repair as well. So there's those type of things that typically come up. Have I identified frauds before? Yes, not in this sector, but they do occur. And I always remember a partner saying to me, there's a fraud on every audit, you just need to find it. But depending on the level of severity.
That's how we've laughed during the audit.
But the key thing for us as auditors here, we're not there to kind of pick fault. We're looking for material errors. We're looking for material mistakes. So our procedures are designed to look for where there could be a material risk, not an error within the account. So.
Thank you. Bill.
Yeah, just a quick one. After what you've just said, would you recommend then a physical valuation of all property before we go into the new system of regular evaluation?
So the value will typically, through the process that's been in place, through a rolling process, would have done that ordinarily. And then management would identify whereby there would be any impairment, any changes, any improvements to those properties to, again, direct the valuer to say, well, actually, you probably need to look at these. If there's been no change on an annual basis and it's the same and there's been no deterioration, then the valuer will just kind of update that from a kind of a desktop perspective. But then this year really is that year that's setting it from the last year, the full valuation. And then looking at the guidance, it's really then to get the efficiency, the full efficiency of what's actually been put in place, is you would apply indexation for every one of the next 5 years and then do another full valuation. Otherwise, you're not changing the kind of current process. If you're doing a rolling basis every 5 years, the amount of work that we need to do doesn't change. The amount of work that you need to do doesn't really change. You're not really getting the full benefit of it. So that's what we're saying to our clients, really. If you didn't have it done last year, get it done this year, and then move forward to get the full efficiency and benefit of the new guidance that's coming.
Laura. Yes, you're my last person to ask.
Thank you. There's a lot of information in the report about English devolution and strategic authorities. I just wonder the relevance of that and how we fit and how it's affecting our auditing, because we are not strategic or unitary.
No. It's there for information really, and that's kind of it's our standard kind of local authority update that goes in the back of there. There's lots of obviously change. There's lots of things that's going to be happening around this area, and I think keeping up to date and being aware of what's happening would be key. We're working with a number of the Devon districts as well, so we are across in other kind of counties as well. So we're seeing what's happening. But I think it will become more apparent later this year, and then we start to see actually what that means as well going forward for working relationships. Going back to the partnership point as well, those partners may look different in the future as well after LGR as well.
I have no more hands, I don't think. Has anybody got anything they want to say? No? So we've been asked to receive the report. Are we happy to receive? Can I propose and second? Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Susan. All those in favour? That's definitely. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming, Craig.
That's fine, thank you very much.
Okay, I've got a slight problem now. We've got the standards committee minutes, but we don't have the chairman or vice chairman here. So, Stephen, are you happy to go through them for us?
Very much. Well, you've actually got two members of it.
Oh,
here.
sorry.
You've got me and Nick.
All right, Nick, you
So,
can.
I'm trying to keep that quiet. It was a fairly straightforward meeting, as you can see. The meat of it is on the second page, so we were looking at the annual governance review, which on the whole we were happy with one very small change. And then we were looking at the annual report, and we were looking at the working days notice required to nominate a planning committee substitute, and I know that that might be an item of reconsideration at some point in the light of the practice of other authorities who manage with very considerably fewer days' notice. So if we could just park that one at the back of our minds. In terms of training, you will note the reminder about the study tour, which is taking place this spring. And also I'm pleased to say that we are instituting the gathering of members and staff in the summer, so that is I think a very positive step forward, and I'm glad that the Standards Committee was able to highlight that. And finally, we're now in the last year of service of many of the current term for local government representatives, so all of Somerset, all of North Devon, I think, all of the parishes will be up for election in a year's time, and that could mean that there will be very considerable change in the... It might be no change at all, who knows, but there is that potential. So those were the items that we noted in the Standards Committee on this particular occasion, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. We're very happy to receive your report. Any questions of Stephen? Andy?
Yeah.
Or Nick, by the way?
Yeah, go on.
Either.
You're a double.
To Nick? No.
No.
My question was just really getting clarity around 3 working days, because does it include the day you report it on, the day of the meeting? I think when you say working days notice, it is really confusing, and also bank holiday not classed as working days, but that sort of means more time. I always struggle with working days as to when the clock starts.
Well, strictly speaking, it is working days. I mean, I think depending on the meeting, I think one has to exercise a degree of caution about being too strict in interpreting it. If, for instance, somebody it says, I'm sorry, for this reason I can't attend the meeting, I've got a substitute, and it happens to be on the morning of the 3rd day, well, do you include that as a clear day or as a part of the day? I mean, there's always that issue that comes into the consideration. I think that up to now we've just handled it really carefully, cautiously but pragmatically. But whether or not in the long run 3 working days is a rather luxury approach to it. As I say, a number of other authorities cope with considerably fewer days. There is a little bit of a feeling, I know, that hangs around that somehow members, if they're substituting for something, particularly if there's a complex agenda, need to have lots of time to be able to read the reports and understand them and ask questions and all the rest of it. I don't think it's necessarily true, because actually the reports are always very carefully drafted. They are always very easily understood, and frankly, a few hours reading ought to be able to give members the opportunity to understand perfectly clearly what is in the paper if they are otherwise unfamiliar with it. So I don't quite buy this thing that you have to have days and days and days of preparation. I think a reasonable amount of time is a reasonable amount of time, and you don't need 3 days notice, but we'll discuss it, I'm sure.
I just think, for clarity, Chair, if I may, because our planning meetings are always on the same day of the week, it'd be really handy if in the guidance it said if your meeting's on a Wednesday, it needs to be by 5 o'clock on a Friday sort of thing, so you give a time and a day.
But this is where the working days notice is important, because of course if you have a bank holiday included, as we did this month, and as indeed we did last month, is that bank holiday to be included within the days or not? So this again is part of the discussion that I think we need to be clear about.
And the word clear does not appear.
No.
So it's not clear days.
Yeah.
I think this is something we need to come back to.
Yes, indeed.
Today's not the day.
Yes, today's not the day, but I think it's something that we can revisit.
There was somebody, was it you? Yes, sorry, Andrew, and then Marcus.
I was only going to point out that for some people a bank holiday is a working day. Thank you.
Oh, that's a very good point.
Anything but.
I was thinking the same. I agree with what you're saying about Stephen, in terms you don't need a massive amount of time to read up on the planning documents. The reports are very well written, and it's a lot easier to be here than it is on a parish council sometimes looking at the plan, because you get a lot more direction. My question was actually more around the point which dawned on me last night. I was doing some work, and then when I'm up for re-election, realised it's 4 years, so that's next year. And with everyone coming up for elections, is there any option of maybe extending the parish council people an extra year for some continuity? Because there's lots of I might say that because I haven't. But I think we should consider it. Okay, that's why I asked the question.
That's not in our gift.
But there's a big risk, isn't it? Because the lack of memory and continuity, there's a risk of not looking at it.
Potentially, Mr. Rowe, but that's always been the case, and actually parish members have had 5 years from the Somerset side this time. Haven't you? Or we
No, because they had their elections.
You're right, okay.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Yeah.
No, I know our election.
You've had to serve 5 years, but not on the national park. But no, I don't think we have any discretion at all.
No, the elections, we can't change elections, but in terms of our rate, okay, it's fine. Yeah.
No more hands. No, I got confused because Marcus said about it. Even I'm getting confused now. Thank you. We've received it.
Okay, well, I'll propose that we receive the money.
Thank you, and I'll second that. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Personnel update. I have to say, this word engagement trainee, I love because it made me think of weddings straight away. Isn't it funny how you just get the wrong idea? I started thinking about diamond rings. Anyway, we welcome Connie. I don't know why. Really too much time on the bank holiday. We welcome Connie. Nobody's left us, which is good. Members' reports, nobody has advised me of any. That's right, but Laura will give us one next month, won't you, Laura? Yeah. On CMP.
Oh, it's not really a report. It's just flagging that the Campaign for National Park's latest report about governance is out. It's worth a read.
Thank you. Maybe next month if you could just do a little report for us, that'd be great. And other things that might not on the CMP. But I did want to say something. So we're getting to the end of the meeting. Before I close the meeting, I want to, this is Dominic's last meeting. And I want to thank you. And I want to thank you for your very active engagement and your commitment and your friendliness and your approachability. And you will be very much missed. And of course your shirt. It's just got to be said.
Yeah, the shirt, obviously, probably a lot of you know, today is this month is the Balinese festival of Tumpuk Udu. I was trying to think how to translate that. I think it probably roughly translates to kind of cornucopia. Balinese is quite complicated, but basically it's a festival to celebrate plants and trees. So I thought that was quite appropriate, really. So I think we should. I mean, to be fair, the Balinese have a festival every day, so you can always pick one that will suit you, which is why Balinese is great. But it made me think about how it's been a privilege to be on the National Park and celebrate plants and trees, and hopefully nature recovery as well in the future. And I wish you all the best of luck doing exactly that.
And you. Thank you.